At 12 years old, Gregor Clegane was already one of the strongest men in Westeros. Vicious and violent by nature, Gregor used his immense size, strength, and title to force his will onto others. Prone to fits of rage, no one, including his own family, was safe from his wrath. Using his strength and knighthood to keep himself safe from repercussions, Gregor would kill anyone he felt slighted by. Coupled with an extreme addiction to milk of the poppy, Gregor was one of the most savage men in Westeros. Gregor is perhaps the largest man in the Seven Kingdoms, explaining his namesake, the Mountain That Rides. Well known for his size, cruelty, and prowess in battle, he is extremely tall, being close to 8 feet. Broad as well, he has massive shoulders, and arms as thick as the trunks of small trees, with a voice that sounds like stone breaking. Gregor weighed above 420 pounds, or 190 kilograms. Nearly all of this weight was muscle, making him inhumanly strong. When Sir Jaime Lannister was pondering who is physically stronger than Gregor, he posed that Sandor Clegane, Gregor's brother, was exceptionally powerful, but that of the two, the mountain strength is, quote, like nothing human. Gregor wore the heaviest, thickest steel plate armor in the Seven Kingdoms, dull gray in color and battle-scarred. The armor is so heavy that no ordinary man would be able to move in it, let alone fight effectively while wearing it. Below the plate he wears chainmail and boiled leather. He also wears a plate helm with only a narrow slit for vision, atop of which is a stone fist punching upwards at the sky. The mountain's strength allows him to wield a 6-foot-long sword. While originally intended to be a two-handed weapon, Gregor can wield the greatsword with just one hand, giving him enormous reach while still being able to use a shield. Such is the power of Gregor's strength that he has been known to hack men in half with just a single blow. Gregor's massive oaken shield is rimmed in black iron, and it bears the 3 black dogs of House Clegane on a yellow field. While a terrible force on foot, the Mountain That Rides rode atop huge stallions, many of which were as ill-tempered as their rider. But Gregor did not reserve his acts of violence to the battlefield alone. Brutal since childhood, Gregor horrifically scarred his brother's face by holding him in a fire for playing with one of his toys without permission. Already 12 years old, Gregor had lost interest in playthings, and discarded the toy, but his sadistic tendencies were only looking for an excuse. Already over 6 foot tall, it took 3 grown men to stop him. Afterwards, their father explained the injuries by saying that Sandor's bedding had caught fire. Vicious by nature, Gregor was a murderer and defiler of women, which garnered his evil reputation, with Sir Brandon Tully calling him a frothing dog. Despite his apparent lack of self-control, along with being a dim and brutal man, he had excellent warrior's instincts. The Mountain was a solitary man, never leaving his own lands except for wars or tourneys. This may be in part due to the fact that Gregor constantly suffered from extreme headaches and consumed vast quantities of milk of the poppy, the medieval equivalent of morphine, to try and dull the pain. The cause of these headaches is unknown. It could, perhaps, be caused by some condition of his gigantism, as this is known to be caused by brain deformities, though it could be equally likely to be caused by a blow to the head suffered in a tourney or battle, and the result of some head trauma. The amount Gregor consumed was immense due to his size and the severity of his affliction. The Mountain's men often refer to him simply as Sir, and had to tread carefully around their lord. After the Battle of the Camps, when a scout returned with no information, Gregor was quoted as saying,
"A man who sees nothing has no use for his eyes. Cut them out and give them to your next outrider. Tell him you hope that 4 eyes might see better than 2, and if not, the man after will have 6.
According to his brother, Sandor Clegane, Gregor also killed one of his own men because the soldier snored too loudly. Household servants were not safe from the Mountain's wrath either. During his time in Harrenhal, a servant girl spoke when he wanted silence, so he smashed her face in with his mailed fist, breaking her nose and many of her teeth. Numerous servants have gone missing at the Clegane Keep over the years, apparently killed by Gregor for perceived slights in one of his infamous fits of rage, and their deaths were then covered up. Gregor's own father and sister died under dubious circumstances as well, and Sandor thinks that Gregor may have killed them too. Their sister died when he was too young to remember, and their father died years later in what was said to be a hunting accident. The Clegane Keep is said to be a grim place where even the dogs are afraid to enter the halls. On the day that Gregor came into his inheritance, his brother Sandor entered the service of House Lannister, never to return to the Clegane Keep again. At age 16, at the request of Tywin Lannister, Rhaegar Targaryen himself anointed Gregor as a knight, a great honor, even though Gregor was an infamously dishonorable man. 1 year later, Gregor participated in the sack of King's Landing during Robert's Rebellion, where he scaled Maegor's Holdfast when the Lannister troops reached the Red Keep. Gregor entered the nursery of the infant Prince Aegon, son of Prince Rhaegar, the same king who knighted him, and killed the baby present by dashing the boy's head against a wall. Then he defiled, tortured, and murdered Aegon's mother. The identity of the murderer has not been publicly confirmed in recorded history, although Gregor's involvement is common knowledge at Casterly Rock, and despite pleas by Ned Stark, neither Gregor Clegane nor Tywin Lannister were punished by King Robert for the murders of the royal family. Gregor's brutality seeks any outlet it may. In the hand's tourney, Gregor noticed the opposing knight's gorget was not fastened properly, and purposely drove his lance at his neck, slaying him, as his lance rode up and pierced the new-made knight's throat. When unhorsed later in the tourney by Sir Loras Tyrell, who rode a mare in heat to unnerve Gregor's testy stallion, Gregor fell into a rage and killed his own steer with one blow of his sword. He then knocked the unprepared Sir Loras from his courser and prepared to kill the young knight. But Sandor intervened, and the brothers dueled. Gregor finally came to his senses only when King Robert Baratheon ordered him to stop. Gregor did not save his sadistic love of inflicting pain to the battlefield or tourneys either. During his time at Harrenhal, he hand-selected those from an enemy army to be tortured and drew great pleasure from the act. Despite his seemingly indestructible nature, the Mountain would eventually meet his match. In a duel with Oberyn Martell, the Mountain would kill him by gouging his eyes out and crushing his skull with his bare hands, but not before being poisoned by a lethal venom on Oberyn's weapon. While the poison ran rampant through Gregor's body, his immense constitution and the work of a forsaken maester saved him from the brink of death. But not without consequence. The maester used forbidden and dark practices on the man. When asked about Gregor's state after the operation, he had this to say: "The flesh mortifies, and the wounds ooze pus. Even maggots will not touch such foulness. His convulsions are so violent that I have to gag him to prevent him from biting off his own tongue. I have cut away as much of the tissue as I dare, and treated the rot with boiling wine and bread mold to no avail. The veins in his arms are turning black. When I leeched him, all the leeches died." Despite this, Gregor returned to life. If not horrifying enough in his own right, the Mountain now walked as a terrible, necrotic monstrosity. A walking corpse, given a new unholy life to inflict torment on the world. In the visage of a demon, Gregor would continue with his acts of depravity in the service of House Lannister until the Battle of King's Landing, where he would face his own brother in combat. Seemingly the only man strong enough to defy him, Sandor would win the battle, sacrificing himself and plunging them both into a fiery pit, once and for all, ending the Mountain's horrible life and making Westeros a better place for it. Evil and terrifying, it is a blessing that Gregor Clegane, the Mountain that rides, is a fiction. May we hope the real world never sees a man so savage and powerful. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the Game of Thrones universe, check out my podcast, Talking Dragons, where we discuss various subjects and eras in the history of Westeros.